How does an event venue help you think through the vision of your event all the way down to the small details like napkin folds? Find out next. Hey everyone, Russ, Climie here, Tiberius Images photographer in Grand Rapids. I want to welcome you to this next episode of Interviews with Event Professionals. And today you're going to meet Chaparral, the sales manager at Watermark Country Club. I know her as Chap. She and I have known each other for over a decade and have worked together at multiple venues for multiple events. She is a very detail-oriented person. She's very outgoing and just fun-loving. I would highly recommend that if you have an event coming up, you reach out to her and see how she can help you plan all the big details, from the big vision of what you're looking to accomplish, whether a wedding or a corporate event, to the small details, like she talks about, napkin folds even. So take a look and enjoy the interview. And I'm really excited to have a conversation about what it's like to be in the world of event planning when it comes to a venue. Chaparral and I have known each other for over 10 years for sure. Yeah. And so I just want people to know and have some insight on what it looks like to, be at a venue like Watermark here in Grand Rapids, and what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. So first of all, how does somebody get into the world of event planning? And what do you technically call yourself? Are you event planner? Are you coordinator?
I'm actually sales manager for Watermark. So I went to school, hospitality major.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it. And then started out in the hotel industry first.
Gotcha, okay.
And then eventually found my niche, I wanted to get in the sales part. So through the hotel, I transitioned from one area to the other.
Gotcha, okay. So you started off in the world of, hotel management and events, but now you're on the front end of all the events out at Watermark.
Correct.
Because you're just helping manage all the contracts, and here's the planning, and then your staff takes care of the execution on the day-to-day.
That's correct.
There you go. That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So what else have you done? You haven't been at Watermark the whole time, so you've been other places. I know we met at Fritchmire Gardens. So
yes.
Are those the places you've been? Hotel, gardens, Watermark?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Watermark's the
over
best.
Over 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so, did you know that this was where you wanted to end up in the sales side?
Yes.
It did. Okay. You're naturally a people person.
Yes. We're people.
There you go. So, what does it actually look like being a sales manager at Watermark? Day to day. Give me a big picture, maybe week by week. Think about your week this week. But then also tell me about maybe 6 months or 12 months, that kind of a perspective.
Well, I'm always working ahead.
Okay.
So right now I'm already working into my August events. Always planning ahead. Right now it's peak season for weddings.
Yeah.
So a typical day, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, returning, scheduling meetings to get those sales, tours. Yeah. And right now with the weddings, I have to schedule detail meetings actually we'll back up. Once I book a tour, if I land the sale with the couple, as far as weddings go, then once we get closer, I do a details meeting, and we go through all the menu, timeline, bar, all the vendors, timeline as far as when everyone's arriving for decorating, down to the bridal party, the guest arrival, toasts, welcome speeches, first dances, cake cutting.
All that. So needless to say, you're a little detail-oriented in this process.
Detailed.
So
you have to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that the same? So you've got this process of you've booked a tour, they're gone through your space, you've met with them, you've sold them, they sign a contract, and maybe their event is for July of 2018, so a year from now. Is that similar in the corporate side as well, or is that a shorter time span? I know weddings typically can be 6 months, 12 months, a year and a half. Corporate events.
Corporate's a lot shorter span.
Okay.
So corporate clients, I still do a lot of tours, a lot of phone calls. They want to see the space, not as detailed because they're just a lot easier.
Yeah.
But still working with them with their menu, their beverage service, their room layout, all their timeline, which is completely different. Any audiovisual needs.
Okay. Because a lot of times you'll have, I think about the events I photograph, and a lot of times it's, there's going to be cocktails in the beginning, sit down for dinner, the salad, entree, and then some kind of presentation, whether it's a panel or a speaker, and PowerPoint presentation that that it needs to go correctly.
Yep.
Right? Because no one thinks about audio visual until it doesn't work.
Right.
That's the moment everybody thinks about it.
Yes.
So are you typically on a Saturday you're handling one or maybe two weddings? Is it typically just one?
We typically, our weddings, we just do pretty much one because we allow the vendors and decorators to start coming in at 10 a.m.
Gotcha.
Which is a big perk for our brides because a lot of venues don't allow that.
Sure.
So, what I do, though, I'm not there the day of most of the time.
Okay.
I do all the planning, all the back end details, and then we have a banquet management area that
takes care of
executes everything.
Sure. So so if you're doing one wedding you might do one on a Friday, one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday for a busy weekend. How many corporate events are you doing in a week? I mean, I remember you told me a while ago it was a lot, so that's why I asked the question.
Well, all through the week is corporate. So we can do, with our different spaces, we can have 4 going on at a time.
Wow.
Or else, and a lot of times we have different corporate season that do a lot of galas, fundraisers. So we have those 400 corporate events that we can do.
Sure. So like during a lunch, you might do 4 during the day, and you can do 4 at night at the same time. So you can do possibly 8 events, and you might do breakfast as well.
Correct. And then we just have to flip that room.
I just think about the manpower, like, number one, the manpower on the day of, like when you're actually doing it, but then the organization that you have to have.
And a great staff.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think I've been out to your property probably at least 15 times for different stuff, whether it's a wedding or a corporate event, and it's always.
I do your dad's event every year.
I know, yeah. So if any of you are fishermen, my dad is a avid fly fisherman, and so the West Michigan Trout Unlimited chapter, the Shrems chapter, has their event out at Watermark, and I've been out there to photograph it a few times, and it's a great thing. And so I love knowing, like, who do you serve best? Like, I think, and I ask that question because people will say, well, we take care of everybody. And that statement sounds great, but it's not really true. Like, it's the idea of, who do you love working with best? Like, if you had 100 clients like this, what would that look like?
They're so different. I have a lot of corporate clients that are regular clients that keep coming back.
Okay.
So you really build a relationship with them.
Okay.
So, and it becomes easier and easier because a lot of times they'll go, oh, let's just do the same thing we did last time. So unlike weddings, you're only going to work with that bride one time.
One time. For sure.
Hopefully.
So what are some of your favorite events that you've done? Like, I would love to hear some of those stories. Like, what stands out? Good events. Let's go that route rather than like knocking on the ones that didn't go so well. So favorite events that you've done.
Well, again, corporate and social are so different. Corporate, I like the first they're easier, but I like the fundraisers.
Okay.
I like seeing just different, let me think what I'm trying to say.
No, it's all right.
Companies that are trying to raise money for a good cause,
okay.
and you see them really going out and getting donations and everything, and then once it comes together, they get so excited how much money they've raised, and just to help their cause that they're working for.
Yeah. Do you have any that stand out, like either corporate events or maybe a wedding in particular that you helped plan, and it was either somebody that you knew well from a relationship standpoint, or they just did something really unique that you'd not seen before, and you're like, wow, this really stands out?
Probably my favorite events are theme events.
Okay.
So casinos, they bring in all this casino, games and whatnot.
And all the staff that goes along with it.
Sometimes.
So what are they doing? Are they playing like blackjack all night or like roulette? Really?
Yeah.
So they'll bring in, does that require is that planning that you do on the front end, or is that something that they take care of?
They contract that out on their own, but again, that's me organizing the vendor arrivals for all the load-in.
Yeah, and obviously planning out the spaces that everybody's going to be in, because as much as you want to have 300 people in a room plus all of the gaming tables, I'm sure it turns out to be a little bit, tight.
Yep.
If you don't plan.
Diagramming is key.
Yeah.
And
Again, detail orientedness is required. So, what is the best part about the being in the event industry, do you think? Like, what do you like the best about it?
Probably the end result. You do all of these details and work hard, and then when you see it come into just fruition, and seeing them happy.
Sure. So what?
And with the weddings, especially now, with the economy coming back, they're spending more.
Sure.
And so seeing the rooms transition to so many different looks.
Interesting.
When they're bringing in specialty chairs and tables, and I have events that bring in their own bar and dance floor, and just the whole look of the ballrooms and different rooms changing.
That's great. That's a question I want to drill down on that for a second. So if someone's planning a wedding, what would you say maybe the one or two top things are that could really elevate a wedding or an event that you've seen, change the look of a room or just change the energy of a room? What are the couple things that you really think people should look at, but maybe they overlook a lot oftentimes?
Just simple things like uplighting.
Okay. Well, and explain what uplighting is, because
uplighting, they're just lights that sit on the floor, and you can change, have different filters of colors. Some of them have, you can make stars or different symbols, or a lot of different colors is probably the most thing, especially I think it's dark in it. The theme with their colors, with their linens, and
gotcha. So you can really tie it all together. I can think of a couple weddings where we're showing up, and in the room I know is generally white or just kind of very neutral, and all of a sudden you walk in and it's like this purple paradise, and it's because they've got uplighting around the room. So uplighting is a simple thing to do. Anything else that comes to mind?
Well, always when you're throwing in specialty linens, chair covers, floral is always huge.
Is it?
So.
And is there a difference?
Even a simple thing like a charger on the guest table that adds just so much more elegant.
So just a charger at all the place settings versus just having a plate set down in front of a guest. And can you really tell, I guess one question I have for you is from a floral perspective, because obviously there's all kinds of florists, people want to do all different things. Are you able to tell as an event coordinator, as a sales manager that's running a bunch of events, like the people that have spent, maybe $300, $400 on flowers, and people have spent $4,000 or $5,000 on flowers?
Definitely.
You can. So when you hire a professional in that realm as well, it just takes it up another level, especially in a ballroom scenario, right? When you're not necessarily outside. I think of, our time back at the Gardens when we worked together. You don't really have to dress up the waterfall space at the Meyer Gardens.
Right.
But in a ballroom scenario, it's always a great thing to do, is to dress it up with some extra flowers.
Even something as simple as the way your napkin's folded. I mean, just an elegant flat fold versus a tent, and just a menu card on the table, and
all of these things I would not think about at all. So is that stuff, like that type of a question, is that a standard question that you ask either a corporate client or a bride? So what kind of table napkin what kind of fold would you like for your table napkin? That's amazing. Like I've done this for a long time. I had no idea that's like a standard question that you ask. And do people get really crazy with like napkin folds?
I've had clients come in, and not just brides, but corporate clients that will have a specific, they'll Google how to fold it and bring it to my banquet team, and they want it folded that certain way.
That's awesome. So craziest fold you've ever seen? I think of like a duck or something. Like
no, that I haven't seen.
I haven't seen origami with table napkins yet.
They're pretty. They don't get too crazy.
They don't get too crazy. They could though, right?
Could.
So if somebody wants to get really crazy.
It's amazing if you Google napkin folds, how many you can see.
Yeah. After you watch this video, go Google napkin folds for events, and I'm sure you'll get blown away with what's possible. So what's the best story you have to tell about your industry? Like somebody that doesn't necessarily go to a lot of events, but they're interested in knowing what that world looks like. What stories do you like to tell people about what it's like to be in your industry for 20 years? If somebody wanted to come into this industry? Yeah, let's do it from that perspective, and then from the perspective of they're going to utilize your services. So somebody who's interested in your industry, what stories do you like to tell them?
You have to be very detail oriented.
Okay.
You have to always have your game face on. Something can go wrong, but you don't want them to know behind the scenes that something, you just have to fly by the seat of your pants a lot.
Gotcha. So there's an element of detail orientedness, but also kind of roll with the punches as they come along. And is that natural for people that walk into your industry, or is that a rare combination of person? Like, do you think that people that go in your industry know that ahead of time, or is it like they just kind of learn by learning? Yeah, you just have to. You learn to roll with it. Roll with it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, because if somebody's new in the industry,
is your first day on the job, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
It's just practice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then what about somebody who is going to utilize the services of, a banquet facility like yours? Like, what are some of the stories you like telling? Like, do you ever have, like, I think about when we talk about weddings to clients or other events that we're doing photography for, if I have someone that says, hey, or asks about, hey, have you done photography at this such and such, like at Watermark, I would immediately start telling stories about, what it's like to work at Watermark and what we've seen and what we've liked and what we maybe didn't like necessarily and what they could do better next time. So what do you talk to clients about in that regard when they first contact you? Like, what questions do you ask them in the beginning to try to figure out, what are you trying to accomplish with your event? What do you want the guests to experience?
Depending if it's corporate. So
let's talk about corporate stuff. So someone who is calling you and you want to give them, you're trying to sell them on your venue. So you probably talk about AV and food and all that stuff, but like, give me a bigger picture of what that looks like.
I want to see what their vision is first.
Sure.
See what they're looking for, and if we're a good fit, which of course we are.
Okay. Is there anybody that's not a good fit for Watermark?
Well, and what we include, we are, for instance, a lot of venues you go to, and it's just a standard table linen. We include floor length linens, which is huge because a lot of places you'll have to rent them, and that's an extra cost.
Okay.
So that's already a perk right there.
Interesting.
And so floor length linens and napkins, all the linens for our auxiliary tables are all included. We include candles, just simple stuff. Podium microphone we don't charge for. Just all the perks they get.
Yeah, what are the...
Our extensive menu is huge. Our menu is extensive, and we have our entrees are very... they're large.
They're well portioned. I will definitely agree with that. It's
nice.
Your executive chef for all the Watermark properties is I can't remember his name. All of a sudden, he works. Glenn. Yeah, Glenn. I was going to say Rod for some reason, but that's a chef that I worked with previously. But no, Glenn, and I know that he has a ton of experience all over the place, and he's come to you guys and been there for probably 3 years now, 4 years, something like that.
Yep.
And I know he's really helped build out the options that people can have from simple to crazy.
And we're unique being Watermark properties, actually. We have 4 properties, so if maybe a corporate client comes to me and I look and I don't have availability, one of my other clubs might. And each one of our clubs has such a different setting, and I think we have something with each of our clubs to accommodate.
Yeah, so what are the other clubs, just so people know out there? So
we have Watermark properties,
okay.
Our Watermark Country Club, Stonewater, Thousand Oaks, and Sunnybrook.
Gotcha. And all of those, from what I can, just off the top of my head, all of them have pretty large facilities to manage, larger events and smaller events. I'm trying to think. I think we photographed at all of them. So I know that you guys always do a great job.
And each one is unique in their own way.
Yeah.
And but we all have the same menu, so
right.
it just makes it a lot simpler. A lot of our corporate clients will do a couple events at Watermark and then move to Thousand Oaks, Stonewater, Sunnybrook. So they like to change it up.
For sure. And all of the locations have someone like you where you're the sales director at Watermark, so you may refer them to another person, but it's still within the same family of companies. Okay. Interesting. So what questions do you get asked over and over again? I ask that because I want, you probably get the same 4 or 5, maybe 1 or 2 questions. What questions do you get asked over and over again, and how do you answer them so that you can then send them this video and say, okay, I know you want to know these questions, the answers to these questions, so here's my answer. So what questions do you get asked over and over again?
Are we talking what type?
Yeah, let's start with weddings. So what do wedding couples, or either a mother of the bride or a bride or a coordinator call them?
It's always a cost.
Okay.
How many can we accommodate?
Okay.
How many people?
So how much does it cost? How many can you accommodate? And how do you respond to those typically? Because I know it's not just like a standard answer coming back.
Right. Well, we have different pricing for different days, and different. We have peak season and a low season pricing.
Okay.
What's included? What time? The timing.
Okay.
When they can start. When they have to finish.
Okay.
When they have to be out.
And so what information do you want from a bride? So say a bride contacts you about that. What info do you specifically want so you can start to build a quote for them? So that way, when they see this video, they know what to actually email Chaparral when it comes to, hey, I'm interested in a wedding for July of 2018. Here's what I saw in your video. Here's the information that I'm providing to you based on those questions that you need.
If they just want like a quote, they can just simply say, this is what I'm looking for if I have 200 people, and I'm looking for just a simple chicken dish, what's included in that, how much does it cost, was there tax, service charge, basically give a ballpark. I can plug it in and just give them a quote.
Gotcha. So it's so funny because I hear you talking and it's like so subconscious because you're so used to doing it every day over and over again. But just so those of you guys didn't pick up on it so quickly. So number one is the guest count. So the number of people that they're going to have, whether that's 35 or 200, right? And then it's what type of event do they want in terms of food? And probably beverage as well. Like, do they want, so food, are you looking for steak and lobster or you want a simple chicken dish or somewhere in between, right? So information about that. And then bar probably.
Yeah, we can customize a bar pretty much however they want. We have bar packages, we have consumption. So you can start and finish, or start and stop the bar. And that's important because that kind of increases their...
Yeah, for people who don't know, when it comes to a wedding specifically, you can either typically billing's done one of two ways, like per person, and that's kind of a flat fee per person, so you know a fixed cost, or as you called it, consumption, which is per drink, and you're just kind of your staff is tracking it over the night, so then you get a bill at the end. And I'm sure, are there advantages to doing it one way versus the other?
Bar packages are so much nicer because they know right then how much it's going to cost. Versus consumption, it could become a sticker shock afterwards.
So do you usually recommend the package so they know exactly what so they can budget for it, right? Okay, so you're looking at number of guests, type of food, whether there's drink, and then probably a date, right? You're wondering what date, because if it's a Saturday in July, it's going to be busier and you're going to get more requests for it versus a Thursday in February, right? And then other than that, once you have that information, you can send them over a quote so they can figure out what. Oh, and then you also said what else they're looking for. You said.
Well, I have a standard kind of a template that if I get an inquiry, I can just send the bride exactly if their date's available, what is all included, send the menu so they can see everything, and if they want. Even to get deeper and get a quote, I can easily just plug everything in and give them a proposal. Basically. But
that's the type of information you're looking for when it comes to that. Okay, because I think there's a lot of times brides are like, well, I'm wondering if you have my date available. Like I get the feeling you probably
get
the first question, right? Yeah. So I'm hoping that maybe some folks will add some details to that so that you can actually maximize your time, be efficient with them.
And if their date's not available, I can at my club I can check the other clubs as well.
That's awesome. And then from a corporate perspective too, like when what questions do you get from a corporate client? Is it very similar to what's the cost and all that?
What's included?
Okay.
Yeah, the date, of course.
So very similar, I would assume, right? How many guests do you have and what type of event is it? Because if you're doing, I'm sure you've seen events from as small as 20 people where it's a pretty formal event to 150 and it's kind of a networking type of an event, and those are very two
we do baby showers, bridal showers, birthday parties, celebrations of life, again the corporate fundraisers, weddings, everything.
That's amazing. Guys, think about it, like there's that many events going on that she's taking care of in West Michigan, and I think most of us kind of go through life not realizing that there's all of these things going on around us. So what questions do you wish that clients would ask you, but don't necessarily know because they're not in the industry? Is there anything that they should be thinking about? And I'll give you an example as you think about it.
Okay.
So like couples will ask us often for weddings, what kind of camera do you use? And they're asking that only because someone else told them to ask it, unless they're super into photography.
Okay.
And so I'll answer it, which is fine. But the question I wish they'd ask is something more like, if I have a spouse to be, like say my husband to be, my fiance, he's not really comfortable in front of a camera. How do you work with couples so that both the bride and the groom can be comfortable on their wedding day and we get the best pictures possible? That's a question I wish they'd ask.
Okay.
But they don't know to ask that because they're not in my industry. So I have to coach them through
Right.
that. So with that as kind of an example, do you have questions that you wish people would ask when it comes to planning events?
That's kind of a tough one because I really help guide whatever client I have, the direction. Because a lot of brides will come, they've never been married before, most of the time.
Most of the time.
So, I mean, they really struggle. They don't know how to set up their room. They don't know even, like I said, the timeline. It throws them for a loop when I start asking them questions about, okay, first, what time is your ceremony, and then what time do you anticipate your guest arrival, and then, the bridal party announcement, if you're going to do welcome toast prayer speeches, they just kind of get overwhelmed, like,
Right.
oh, we didn't even think about all that.
So what are the first few questions that you ask them as that process starts with a bride specifically? So think about a bride you're working with.
As I'm doing a tour, I kind of go through the whole process, what's going to happen from the time they book and what to expect and what I expect, the information that I expect to get from them.
Okay.
So.
And then from a corporate perspective, are there questions you wish people would ask that they don't, or they just don't know to ask?
Yeah, most of them just don't know what to ask. A lot of times the room setup, especially, sometimes they don't even think about that. You can do so many different things now. It's not just simple round tables. We can incorporate king's tables and rounds, a combination.
What's a king's table? So I don't even know that one.
Oh, a king's table is a rectangular table that you can seat up to 12 people.
Gotcha.
So that even helps when you're doing seating assignments. If you have certain family, you don't want to split them up, you can put them all at one table.
Interesting. Okay. And so what are some of your favorite setups? Do you have specific kind of go-tos that you really like?
Yeah, the combination.
You do? Okay, so give me an example. So like an event of 150 people, how would you do that?
I would do a combination, just do a couple round king's table. And again, I have a CAD on my computer, so I can actually put together a floor plan so they can see exactly what it's going to look like.
And then obviously during a walkthrough, you're literally showing them the plan and saying, this is where this table is going to be, this is where that table
is. And
pictures.
Pictures is huge. Visual. Yeah. People want visual.
Interesting, because that way they can put themselves in the room and envision what's going to happen.
And I always recommend to contact me, and so I can give them some dates that we have wedding setups, so they could pop in and say, "Oh, this is what it looks like."
Interesting. Okay, so that's something I wouldn't even have thought of, because that's a way to.
A lot of couples that do that.
Interesting. Do you have corporate clients that will do that as well, or okay?
Because sometimes it's so hard to schedule tours sometimes because our ballroom consists of the 3 spaces with air walls. Okay. So if they are looking for the whole ballroom, I got to find a date that the room's wide open instead of having the air walls, because it's hard to visualize what the whole space is going to look like. Interesting.
So
I try to find a date or an event being set up so they can come and see that.
So it sounds like working with is pretty. It's pretty simple. Just because if you are available, you're going to walk them through this whole process where they should know that you're the professional and that you're going to ask everything from what kind of vision do they have, but you're also going to have the details of, okay, what kind of table napkin do you want, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty extreme, gap there between the big vision, but also the minute details.
Yeah.
And if you're not available, you have other properties you can refer people to, which is great.
And that's what I'm here for. I'm there to guide them through the whole process and to make it just stress-free for them, because they do get overwhelmed. No matter if it's a 50-person wedding or a 250-person wedding, there's still a lot of detail.
Yeah. What would you say to a bride trying to plan her wedding day on her own? I just think of people trying to just rent a park and have their friends over and have a meal and bring in their own caterer and all that stuff. What would you say to a bride like that? Maybe some advice that you'd give to a bride like that.
Well, it's nice because we do it all.
Okay.
We do all the food and beverage, all of the, we do all the setup, the tear down. So I think it's pretty stress-free.
Okay.
So they don't have to worry about a lot of things. And again, that's what I'm here for, to guide them through all the questions. And if I have a list of vendors that I can, help out. Like you, for instance, I got my list.
Yeah.
So,
which I appreciate.
If they are struggling with a florist or a bakery or photographer, I have worked in the industry for so long that I I have people I can refer to them.
Yeah, my wife and I, one of the things we talk about a lot is that sometimes it's worth paying a professional to help you do the things that you've not done before. And I can definitely, as sitting here talking to you, having this conversation, I can definitely see how, I know my wife has used you for some of her events that she's put together, and they've just gone off spectacularly well. And
Thank you.
but just the idea of her trying to pull all of those details together, from food choices to napkins to all that stuff, it's just so much simpler sometimes to pay a professional to do that. So I would highly recommend connecting with Chaparral. And so where can people find you online? So like if someone wants to get a hold of you, where would they do it?
Just go to Watermark Country Club. It'll pop right up on the browser.
So is it watermarkcountryclub.com, or is that, well, whatever it is, we'll be sure to link it below so that you can have access to Chaparral, to her staff.
All my contact information is right there.
Yeah, which is great. So, well, I'm so glad that we could go through some of these questions and learn more about the world of events from a wedding perspective and a corporate perspective. So hopefully you guys got some value out of that. Be sure to leave a comment below. Tell Chaparral what a great job she did. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below too. I can be sure to send them over to her. So appreciate you guys. Have a great day.